Welcome back to another financial course. Today, we're going to be talking a bit about savings and credit use and how to really take full advantage of saving opportunities, as well as just knowing more about credit cards and how credit works so that you don't end up in a bad situation. So, why should we save money? Savings can provide financial security and independence. So, for any of our younger ones who are looking to build that independence and, not rely on the parents anymore, this will really help with that. Saving money allows you to kind of plan for the future and have a fund there in case something happens. It covers any emergencies and unexpected expenses, of course. We all have our day-to-day lives, but sometimes things go off course or off plan, whether it could, be a sickness where you end up needing to go to the doctor or something worse like a house fire or a car crash. There's all the different things that can come up with emergency situations that need extra money, and saving money and being like prepping for that will really help you get prepared for something if that were to happen. It enables goals. So whether it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal, that could be a trip that you're planning, or maybe just a big travel. For long term, it could be university, it could be so many different things. But once you start saving that money, those goals become more real because you have the funds behind you to support what you'd like to do. And so that's the basics of why you'd like to save money. I know some might seem kind of obvious, but it's always good to kind of just start remind ourselves of why saving money is important, because sometimes it can be hard to do it in the moment, but reminding ourselves of these facts really helps get it going. So there's different types of savings. We kind of just went over this, but we're going to go a little bit more into the nitty-gritty. So emergency fund, I feel like I explained that one pretty well in the last slide. Short-term savings would be holidays, or maybe a new computer, or something small that you've been looking forward to that is maybe within the next month or two. And then your long-term savings will be for retirement or a home or a car or university, like I talked about in the last one. So short and long-term goals can kind of vary depending on also what you want to do. A short-term goal might even be 1 to 5 years, whereas long-term, you're looking more 10 plus years in the advanced future. And then investments, of course, are a big type of savings. So there's all different types of investments that you can do. We talked a bit about Robinhood at the last on the last meeting, but that's a stock market app that is good for beginners. So I would definitely recommend that if you're looking to grow in that area. But there's also CDs, which are accounts that help build money, and you can't take it out early or anything like that. There's obviously savings accounts. Um, Other types of investments could be a home or a car, right? Because the sell-off value. So there's a lot of different types of investments, and learning which one is best for you is definitely important. When I was younger, I had a lot of savings bonds, because what those will do is they'll keep them in the bank until you turn 18, and then you can grab those. So if a parent's watching this and wants to know a way to maybe do it for their children, or even some younger listeners, if you'd like to, put some money aside, that'll build a little bit of interest over time. You can put it in savings bonds, savings accounts that get high return. You could try and go into the stock market. That is a risky move, but there are safe options. Um, and yeah, if if you're older and you have any friends that are starting businesses, or, starting new companies or whatever it might be, investing money into those, if you really believe in them, can also be a great way to make money, but also support the people around you. So those are just some ideas of investments. Some good tips for just saving and getting back on that route would be setting goals. So having specific goals is really important because if we're lackadaisy with ourselves, then we don't really, there's no goal to be reaching, right? So if I say I'll save 1,000 by the end of the next 3 months, I can measure that out and I have a specific goal. If I don't reach it, maybe I made 800, I still have something to try harder at the next time. And I have $800 more of savings. So always set specific goals. It's okay if you can't reach that exact goal, but maybe your next time you will, because you'll still get money in the account. So I always say, yes, specific goals are the best because it'll really give you, okay, I need to put 20 pound in my account each paycheck or whatever it might be. Um, but it makes us feel a little bit more accountable for doing that. Another tip is automate savings. So what that means is from your paycheck, your bank account, when, if you get your paycheck every month or every 2 weeks, it just depends, but you can set your checking account to move that money to a savings account automatically on those days you get paid. And that's a really nice, almost like out of sight, out of mind type of a tip. It's really good if you are someone who maybe sees the money and thinks, oh, I can afford, this and this and this. It just takes the money straight away, so you're not even missing anything. And then later on, there's lots of money in your savings account. So that's a nice way if you have the ability to take out just the same chunk each time. I would definitely recommend that one. High yield savings accounts. So what that means is they're going to have a higher return. So a lot of savings accounts, I believe right now are only like 1%, if that, really low. So having a high yield savings account, it might be a bit more riskier, but if you have it done right and you put it in a safe savings account where you trust the bank and you trust the different like stocks and things that are going into it, then it's very safe to do, and you get a higher return. So that is a good one. I don't necessarily recommend that, but especially if you're older and you have all your accounts in order, this is one to maybe give a thought and do some research on because it does have some interesting benefits. And obviously, a big one is just avoid grabbing that cash from the savings account, um, especially if it's unnecessary. Um, yeah, there's just, unless there's an emergency or something you really need to grab that cash for, I would say you almost have to make it a rule for yourself. I'm not going to touch that until, I've reached this goal or I'm ready to do this or whatever that goal might be. So now we'll move a bit more towards the credit. Credit is just borrowed money that you use to either buy goods or services. Credit can be through so many different things, right? There's credit cards, there's loans, there's lines of credits, and it obviously comes with an obligation to repay it at some point. Um, Usually that's up to you, right? So I could get an 8-year loan and have certain installments each month. But if I pay double that, then it would be a 4-year loan. Obviously, interest comes with most of these things as well, so you want to be careful. I always say if you can pay more that month or whatever pay period you're paying, do it because it's going to offset the interest a bit more. You're going to end up paying it off faster, which then decreases the amount of interest you're paying extra. So it's always smart to look over your plan, whether it's a loan or a line of credit, and decide, what is my goal and what is the best I can do and the most money I can put towards this, because we really don't want to be paying a ton of extra money on top of, a loan we've already taken with interest. So that is just a little bit about what credit even is. And using credit responsibly. So, especially when it comes to credit cards, I feel like this can happen, but only borrow what you can repay. So, Credit cards, when we get it, it's really nice. You can just kind of pay, not worry about what's in your checking account and deal with it later. But, it is going to be later soon. And you're going to thank yourself if you double check that checking account and make sure you have that money to pay. Because when the bills come around, you want to do a full payment. Yes, you can do smaller payments, right? Sometimes they have a minimum payment of £30 or £50. It can vary depending on your bank. Um, but the thing with that is that credit that you haven't paid will just be thrown on to the next bill, and it will start to accrue interest, and it'll start to hurt your credit score because you're not paying full payments. So always double check that you have the money that you're borrowing so that you don't end up in a sticky situation like that. Um, Keep your credit utilization below 30% of your limit. So all that means is try and utilize less than 30% of your limit. Um, all that means is if I get $5,000, right? That's my limit on my credit card. I shouldn't be spending $5,000 each month. Obviously, if something were to happen and I really needed it, cool. I have this credit card with a $5,000 limit, but we only want to use about 30% of that, which I believe would be maybe around 1,500. Maybe a little bit more, but that's all you should be spending each month because realistically, unless you are making a lot of money and you can pay more and just buy more, but usually our limit is decided from our paycheck and our credit score, and they look at a lot of different things when they decide your limit, whether it's a bank or credit card company. So the best medicine or best tip I could give you is try and keep it below 30% of that big limit, because that limit's there for really just emergencies and if you really need it in a pinch, but it's not for everyday use or even month to month use. And always monitor your credit report. So always look through your bills, make sure you purchased all of the things on there. It is pretty common these days, I feel, for people to get their credit card number stolen or, drop it and someone swipe it. So there's just a lot of different things that can happen. So it's always smart to just look over the credit card report, make sure it's all your own purchases and everything looks good before paying it off. And I just want to add, it also kind of gives you an understanding of your spending and different things. If you're not doing as well with your budget, you can always look back at your credit card and see where have I been putting all my money towards. So the benefits of maintaining a good credit. It's easier approval for loans and credit cards. So as I was talking about credit score and different things like that, that is all reliant on then getting a car loan or a, house loan, university loan. If you want more credit cards in the future, these are all things that you need a good credit score to have. So it's really important just from the start to make sure you're pretty debt free and you're acting responsible with your money so that you can in the future have these things in your life if you need them. Low interest rates and better loan terms. So this is just something to look for if you're going for a credit card or for a loan. Look at the interest rates, look at the terms of either the credit card or the loan, and compare with a lot of different, like whichever you're doing. So if you're doing a loan, compare with different loans, or if you're doing a credit card, compare with different credit cards, but definitely try and compare those things and see, okay, what's the best fit for me? Look at, some credit cards you have to pay a yearly fee if it's with like airlines and different things because they'll have perks. So just look at all of that and make sure you're well aware of all the different terms you're signing up to so that you're not caught by surprise in any way. Higher credit limits are always good. Um, that means that, you're building trust with that bank or with that credit card company. And so they are giving you more money to spend if needed. Now, again, I wouldn't recommend spending all of it. It's really just there as a number to show you how much you could spend, but we shouldn't try and reach that number. It should be always at least 50% or below. I know the last slide said 30, that's a good rule of thumb, but 50 is really the max, I would say, unless an emergency or something big happened that you needed it for. But the higher credit limits are good because obviously it allows you to have a bit more freedom with those things. And it enhances your rental and employment opportunities. So anytime you're going to go rent a space, sometimes they'll ask for a credit score or they'll ask for a recommendation from someone that you've either worked with, or they're going to want to see responsibility with money. They're going to want to see paychecks. They're going to want to see a lot of different things, and credit score could be one of them. So it's important to maintain that good credit because it could help with rental in the future and definitely potentially employment opportunities. Not a lot of employers will now ask credit score and things like that, but they will want to make sure that you're responsible and you're well kept up with your day to day. So, some common credit card mistakes to avoid: missing payments or paying late. We kind of talked about that, but we talked a bit more if you just did the smallest payment. Definitely don't want to miss payments or pay late. This can really affect your credit score. It can really make it go down fast. And that's just extra debt that's accruing now and going on to the next bill and the next bill. So never, really never try and miss a payment if you can, because it makes life a lot easier if you don't. Accumulating high levels of debt, of course, is a huge turmoil in life. We don't want high levels of debt. Sometimes it has to happen with loans and certain things, but having a plan, keeping yourself accountable, and making sure you know all the agreements of that loan will really help keep that debt down and at least keep it to a manageable level. Don't try and apply for too many credit cards at once. It actually does notify your other credit card companies and the credit score like calculator. So every time you apply for a credit card, it does something to your credit score because it's just showing that, you need more credit, which they don't always love because that means, oh, does she not, they're thinking, oh, does she not have enough in her account? And so she's wanting another credit card, or he or whatever, which really most people, that is not the case. Sometimes they just want an Amazon card or they want an airline card or whatever it might be. But because of the whole process and gathering the credit score and all the information they take on you, it does bring down your credit score a bit. So if you're applying for multiple credit cards at once, it can really damage that credit score and in the long run make it harder actually to get that credit card because they'll, not approve you if they see that. And definitely don't ignore your credit score. It's something that you should not necessarily check regularly, but maybe every few months to keep track of it and just make sure you're doing well. And you can also see a lot of times it'll tell you what's wrong and what's making that score maybe a bit lower than you want it to be. And so sometimes that can just be length of credit. If you're young, your credit your credit score will always be a bit lower just because you don't have the length of time that the adults do, right? So, or I shouldn't say adults, but the older people do. So don't get too discouraged by that. I remember when I was 17 or 18, I was really discouraged by that number because I just opened up my credit account and all those things. And I thought, man, I've done everything great, but you have to build that credit score. It doesn't just come at 800 and then work down if you make mistakes. No, it starts low and you kind of have to build it up. So definitely try not to ignore it, and also look at the reasons why. It might be ebbing and flowing because it will tell you, and then you can kind of know, oh, it says I missed a payment, I got to be more on top of that, or it can give you, ideas to be better. So balancing the two, prioritize the savings account for emergencies before relying on credit. It's great to have that credit limit like we were talking about for emergencies, but it's also great to maybe spend it on your credit card, but then have that money in the savings to put it towards, and not be in a big credit debt. Using savings for planned expenses, and credit for convenience. So what that means is just, again, don't rely on the credit card to live. Use those savings for any of those big purchases you wanted to make, whether it was short term or big term, long term, and use the credit just for convenience. So whether it's just getting fuel that week or just things you would normally have the money for and spend it on anyways with your checking account card, you can use that credit card because you will start to build credit from that and then just send it from your checking account and pay it right off. Avoid using credit for a lifestyle you can't afford. I think this goes without saying, but of course, if you can't pay it back, don't spend it. It feels good in the moment maybe, but it will end up just not working out, making you extremely in debt and give you more stress in life, and that's nothing that we want. And then the last thing is just paying off high interest debt to save more effectively. I covered that a bit, but just the faster you pay off any type of debt, the more you are saving from interest and a lot of different things. So it's always good to pay off the debt as fast as you can. Maybe even not putting as much towards your savings if you have a lot of debt. I think it's a good choice because you want to get the debt away first before you start saving. Obviously, you should still put some aside, maybe even if it's just £10 and you're putting £40 towards your debt each month. That's okay. Even if it's £1 each month, if that's all you can do, it's still saving some money. And then still also looking at debt and being careful with that. So I believe this is our last slide, and I hope this information was useful. We can go into more about maybe different investment accounts and savings accounts and different things. I just kind of wanted to give a quick run through and not be too wordy, because I know this can be a lot of information, but as always, reach out, DM us on any socials, email us, call us. We are more than happy to talk more about any of this and help you along the way. Savings and credits are obviously very powerful tools. We sometimes take them for granted, but it does affect us later on in life when it comes to big purchases. So it's always smart to just start making good decisions from the beginning. Use both those types of things to build stabilities and achieve your goals. It's a really great way to start that train of what are my goals so that how much money do I need, right? Sometimes saving money can be a bit overwhelming, but if you have a goal in mind and you can kind of narrow in a certain amount of money that's going towards it each month, that will really help kind of relieve some stress, but also help out later on and relieve stress overall for life. If you'd like to do a little assignment, all I have here today, because there's not really a big assignment, but I would say is just researching maybe some savings options. And if you've been looking into the credit cards and loans and different things, look into that, go to a comparison website and really read up on it and see what choices might be best for you and maybe take the next steps, reach out. And I think that it's always a smart thing to learn more about what is open to you because we all are in different situations and it's going to look different for all of us, and that's why I don't go too into detail because I do feel like a lot of that information might go to waste because not everyone here or no one here is in the same situation. So, yeah, save regularly, manage your credit responsibly, and if you're looking to grow in the savings department, definitely start looking into different options like CDs, savings bonds, um, stock market, all that different type of things. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll be back for the final one soon.